Test, test, test. Oh, it does work. Thank you. Good morning everyone to the second day of this ENLIGHT Conference. I hope everyone enjoyed dinner last night with a string quartet and amazing food. I did. I'm very happy in general to be here. I want to thank the organization, 𝗕𝗺𝗃𝗧, and all the colleagues for inviting me and so many wonderful people here. Yesterday we had a great day. We talked about why should we talk about impact and have impact-driven research. How can we embed it? We talked about what are the barriers, what are the opportunities. We talked about how do we then capture this impact. And today we get to the who. We get to meet the people who are actually planning for impact and having impact. And that's a wonderful group of people sitting in front of me who you'll be hearing from. These people have been selected internally from their universities, and the nominees were then, viewed by us. We're part of a selection committee with impact experts and ENLIGHT representatives, of which a few of them are here to watch the pitches and ask questions. So let me introduce you to the panel for that. I have Maya Khan here. She's the Education Policy Advisor at Ghent University, Belgium. We've got Tamsin Varney. She's the Research Engagement and Impact Manager at the Cambridge Judge Business School, Cambridge University. And then we've got 𝗕𝗺𝗃𝗧𝗃𝗃𝗃, and he's Impact Manager at EOS Campus Foundation here at the University of the Basque Country. So, having said that, I am Annika, by the way. Hello. I am the Director of the Organization for Advancing and Evaluating Societal Impact of Science, and I'll be chairing this session today. Now, as I said, we have the nominees here. They will all be pitching their impact story. They have 3 minutes. You might have seen the 300 screen. It looks daunting, doesn't it? It also might confuse thinking it's 3 hours. No, 3 minutes. And I look very sweet and nice, but I'm not. I will tackle you and get you off the stage if you go over. After the 3 minutes, one of the panelists will actually ask a question. You have 1 minute to answer. I will tell you when the minute's over because we won't do the 1 minute on the screen. And then it's the next person. We'll go through all the 15 pitches. Everybody gets to see all this exciting work. I haven't read all of yours, but I've read several, and they're really, really exciting. It's really exciting stuff, and it can really help us, think about all the wonderful things that we could do. We appreciate impact more watching this, and we're going to get inspired, hopefully. At the end of this session, there will be voting for the best pitch, but I, unfortunately, will not be announcing any winners on any level. That'll happen at the end of this morning, around 12:30, 12:45. So the suspense is going to kill us. Having said all that, we need to get started because it's a tight schedule. And for the first pitch, starting us off, from the flagships, they're all also part of the different flagships from ENLIGHT, as you know. This is one from Flagship Health, from the University of the Basque Country. We've got Gaskon. The floor is yours.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you and good morning, everyone. I'm Gaskon Ibarretxe. I'm going to present our ENLIGHT Impact proposal in the area of health. So those are some of the most daunting and important challenges facing human health nowadays. We're talking about so far incurable brain and spinal cord lesions and the spread of deadly cancer metastases. Our research team works to develop new therapeutic strategies against those diseases and lesions. And we are a relatively complex team involving 4 different departments of the University of the Basque Country, the Cell Biology and Histology Department, which constitutes the backbone of the team, but we also have people from the Neuroscience Department, the Physiology Department, and the Material Science Department. Some team members share a double affiliation with Basque excellence research centers like 𝗁𝗃𝗃 and 𝗁𝗏. Perhaps one of the features that best distinguishes us is our vast network of collaborations. We work hand in hand with private biotech companies, public research institutes, also with foreign universities, in particular with the University of Bordeaux. And I'd like to highlight the involvement of public university hospitals belonging to the Basque health system here, 𝗕𝗍𝗄𝗃. This is very important to ensure the maximum translatability of our research findings to clinical practice. So I'll just give you 3 examples of our recent research contributions. This one is about the use of human dental pulp stem cells for brain revascularization, following a patented procedure that we developed. Human dental pulp stem cells can generate full blood vessels, and we are currently using this technology to treat animal models of ischemic stroke with very promising preliminary results. So this picture on the right shows a human cell-made blood vessel in a rat brain infarct area, and cells reach the infarct zone by intracarotid infusion without any need of invasive surgery. A very promising line of work in collaboration with the 𝗁𝗃𝗃 Center of Neuroscience. So can be said about this second line of work, where we developed tissue engineering constructs for brain and spinal cord injury. These constructs are based on biodegradable polymer scaffolds, which are nanopatterned. This nanopatterning facilitates the migration of neurogenic stem cells, and this nanopatterning provides tracks for cells to migrate. These scaffolds can be functionalized, so they accelerate the neuronal differentiation. And this has some eco and local media as well. The participation of 𝗁𝗏𝗃 and 𝗁𝗏𝗃 and 𝗁𝗃𝗃 has been fundamental in this project. I'd like to finish with our award-winning patented technology of nanoparticles to reduce the spread of liver metastases from colorectal cancer. This technology is patented and has been recently approved by the NIH of the United States of America to start clinical trials. So we'd like to take advantage of this nice initiative to expand our network of collaborations following the ENLIGHT spirit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Gaskon. All right, so we have read the pitch, and Maya, I think you had a question.
Yeah, nice to meet you in first place. I'm impressed by your work, but I have a question. I have several, but I have one important question. So you discuss many pathways to impacts, but most of the pathways are focused within the scientific ecosystem. And I was wondering about impacts towards broader society, which is clear, but what are the pathways towards that impact in broader society? And what role do you see for yourself as a team?
Yeah, so we have a very clear role in educating our PhD undergraduate students. So this shouldn't be underestimated, because these projects can provide large inspiration, a very nice inspiration to our students. And then we are talking about the creation of new spin-off companies. So the nanoparticle project has led to the creation of a new spin-off company called Nanokide Therapeutics. So we are talking about the creation of new jobs. And, well, I think this is what we work for. We work to translate our research findings to clinical practice, so this can impact at many levels.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gaskon. And thank you for being the first. That's never easy. All right, we're going to stay in the flagship health, and from the Comenius University of Bratislava, I'd like to introduce Dalibor. Wow, that's one introduction for you. Everybody's awake, definitely. Whenever you like, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Dalibor. I'm a pharmacist specialized in preclinical drug development. I work at the Comenius University in Bratislava, Slovakia. I have some bad news first. 1 in 10 adults has diabetes worldwide. It is a metabolic disease. Also, 1 in 10 adults has kidney disease, which is often caused by diabetes. These are on the top 10 list of causes of death of the World Health Organization. And aging does not help this condition. Everyone seems to age who lives long enough. Everything is amplified by oxidative stress, which makes this a vicious circle. So it does not look good. But I have a plan to develop a new drug that would rescue this vicious circle by not being another antioxidant, but it would convince the aging body to produce sulfur antioxidants and boost its own defenses. And this should also decrease the need for dialysis and transplantation. How do I do this? I collaborate with two slightly aged but brilliant scientists from the Netherlands. Leo Dilman was my PhD supervisor, and he developed cell and animal models of disease. These are suitable for the testing of the new drugs that I find. And Guido Krenning, he's the chief scientist of a Dutch-based biotech company, and he is using the technology that I developed in industrial drug screening. With the company, they recently launched a new drug for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease into clinical trials. So the path to clinic is known to our team. My role is also to spread awareness of our efforts, not because I have a Facebook addiction, but to spread awareness of the problem and also to engage the community of patients, doctors, and public and private stakeholders to join the effort and create a two-way impact. So the 5-year project is halfway done, and I wish that in the future it would help people with metabolic disease. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Dalibor. And I mean, the promise of keeping us young, that's a tough one to criticize. But Tamsin, I'm sure you have a question about this.
I do, and thank you so much for a really good example of university and business collaboration. I was wondering if, reflecting on your progress to date, are there any additional stakeholders you would have liked to engage earlier in the project, and what would be your systematic approach to making sure they contribute to the development of that 5-year plan?
Thank you for this interesting question. I would certainly like to engage more pharma business. We applied for a large-scale screening campaign from the European Lead Factory, and that was successful. That is ongoing. Since I work in Slovakia now, and these partners are based in the Netherlands, I want to engage some local stakeholders that are private.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great, and we are continuing in the Health and Wellbeing flagship, and Sierdjan from University Groningen is going to be the next speaker.
Thank you. We asked a question. That was our impact. We asked a question to local policymakers in the north of the Netherlands. We asked them, if you want to think about your development, you really need to think, what is this development going to be about? My name is Sierdjan Koster, and I'm here representing our team of economists, sociologists, health specialists, both from the private sector and academia. And we were tasked with coming up with a monitoring system for a large investment program in the north of Groningen. Policymakers asked us to make their life easy, come up with a checklist that they could use for the monitoring geared towards economic development. If anything, we made their lives more difficult. Still, they adopted it. A little bit of background here. So the east of Groningen is one of the poorest areas in the Netherlands. Accidentally, it's also the area that sits on a large natural gas reserve, which has made a lot of money for the Netherlands in the last few decades. With the reservoir depleting, the ground started to sink and earthquakes emerged, leading to a lot of damage in that area. This program was initiated to compensate for those damages to some extent. And we were asked again to come up with a monitoring system for this program. When we set out to do this, we said, well, this cannot only be about the economic. We need to take on a broader perspective on growth, on development, including health outcomes as well. I think that's why we're in the health flagship. Health outcomes are not that great in that area either. We need to include well-being of the people as well if we talk about development. We need to talk about equity too, so we could have been in that flagship area as well, I think. You need to come up with a broad perspective on growth. That was our message. And it's not easy, because it also forces you to make choices. If you want to have a large-scale wind farm, it's good for the energy transition, but it's going to deteriorate the cultural landscape that you have. It might have health implications. So you need to ask yourself the question, what is the type of economic development or socioeconomic development that you want to have in your region? And fortunately, policymakers adopted our proposal, and to be honest, in the end, there was a checklist on our broad welfare approach, but I think what is more important is that it started a continuing, up to this date, discussion, narrative about what growth should be about in that area. So that's my story on how asking a question has, we hope, lasting impact.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sierdjan. And you made an excellent point with the flagships are great, but a lot of the projects that we read actually touched upon multiple of them, and that's the beauty of this. So thank you for mentioning that. Inigo, I'm going to give the floor to you for a question.
Thank you so much. Could you tell us what does impact project management contribute to research?
I think also on the back of yesterday, I've been thinking a little bit about what underlies the impact that we had, actually, and I think one of the things I came up with is actually that much of the impact in the end in this project specifically was actually done before the project already. So all the people involved, and particularly our team leader, we were already out there talking to the policymakers, let's say, about impact in a general sense, I guess. So I would say that actually we were able to build on the impact that we already had as a group, let's say. And I think, I can't remember the exact presentation yesterday, but somebody said at one point, well, impact is not so much a one-off activity, it's rather, let's say, a strategy that is embedded, well, in this case, in our group of researchers, but I think in a larger sense also in, well, the universities that we represent here. So I think for us, that was one of the key points, actually.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Sierdjan. Thank you very much. Next up, I'm going to give the floor to Chris from the University of Galway.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm here representing a project that was led by a very diverse team, and it was quite an innovative project because there was two PIs, one PI an academic, but the second PI embedded in our National Health Service. So everything from the very start, from when the grant was written right through to the conduct of the project and how it goes on to for lasting impact, is a collaboration between academia and our National Public Health Service. So what did it focus on? Well, focus on this question: what if more interactions with health professionals effectively supported chronic disease prevention? This is really important because 70% of deaths worldwide are caused by chronic disease. Over 1 million deaths, or over 1 million people in Ireland have a chronic disease. And there are 40 million interactions between primary healthcare professionals and members of the public each year in Ireland. So each one of those interactions is an opportunity to try and support the prevention of chronic disease. So the Making Every Contact Count initiative is about training healthcare workers to do just that, to have conversations with their patients about healthy diets, about reduction of alcohol and drug consumption, about physical activity, and about smoking cessation. But it's really important that that training program works and that it's actually implemented in healthcare settings. So what this project was about enhancing the implementation of that intervention. And it involved a survey with over 300 healthcare professionals responding to that, in-depth qualitative interviews with over 30 healthcare professionals, and then most importantly, all through this, there was public and patient involvement. So there were members of the public who were contributing to the design of the research, contributing to the interpretation of research, and who came in and joined researchers and healthcare professionals, healthcare policymakers in a co-design workshop that you can see a lovely picture of here at the end of the project, which integrated all of the evidence that had been generated at earlier parts of the project and used that evidence to inform the development of recommendations for enhancing the implementation of the Making Every Contact Count program. So these are the 9 recommendations that were developed in cooperation among all of these different groups, these different interest groups, and the National Health Service has committed to implementing these recommendations. So I think that's a really powerful impact that will hopefully lead to greater health, the flagship that we're focused on.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm going to give Inigo another chance to ask a question. Would you mind?
This similar question, how have the research results been used to achieve the impact of the project?
Okay, so first of all, can I take the opportunity in responding to the question to mention that I'm here representing Dr. Oonagh Meade, who was the lead postdoc on this work and unfortunately couldn't be here today, and the PIs, academic PI, Professor Molly Byrne, and the public health PI, Dr. Maria O'Brien. And it's important to mention those people because they are all continuing to work together to ensure that these recommendations get implemented. So the evidence formed the basis of these co-design conversations, that generated these recommendations, and now there's an implementation plan to make sure that these recommendations get actually put into practice. So that's not possible unless there wasn't such tight collaboration from the start to the end and going forward between people working in the health service and the academic team involved in this project.
Yep, great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. All right, with the next nominee, we return to the University of the Basque Country. Nerea, the floor is yours.
Yes. Okay, good morning. My name is Nerea Bilbao. I'm postdoctoral researcher at the 𝗕𝗵𝗁𝗃 Hospital and temporary assistant professor at the University of the Basque Country. So I'm glad to present the Precision Medicine Network in Complex Diseases Research Group. The GCC Research Group was consolidated 13 years ago, and it is mainly focused in the study of the genetics of cancer and in the pediatric cancer. The research group is composed by multidisciplinary experts at the University of the Basque Country and also clinical experts in the main reference hospital in the Basque Country and in Spain, and also our patients and Patients Foundation. These are our main stakeholders. This project aims the identification of non-invasive biomarkers for the diagnosis and then the identification and the study of the genetics in pediatric cancer. These 2 aims are endorsed in the ENLIGHT flagship of health and well-being. And with respect to the digitalization, we aim to implement the sequencing technologies for the diagnosis of rare cancer subtypes and also the development of artificial intelligence for the diagnosis and prognosis. Therefore, our main purpose is to improve the current diagnosis for the better adjustment of the treatment, decreasing the hospitalizations and treatment side effects, increasing our patients' quality of life. For so, we have almost developed an algorithm to predict the molecular subtypes of acute lymphoblastic leukemia and medulloblastoma. We have non-invasive biomarkers for diffuse large B-cell lymphoma and medulloblastoma. And finally, we aim to incorporate this knowledge to the guidelines and the protocols in the clinical practice. In the last 6 years, we have published a total of 102 scientific papers and achieved more than €1 million in research projects and contracts. Also, we have built a bioinformatics hub to be shared between the university and the hospital. And among the collaborations and partnerships, I would like to highlight the cost-legend European Initiative for the Study of Leukemias, in which we participated here in Bilbao, and our partnership with the Integrated Center for Pediatric Clinical Genomics in Canada, which is our reference for the implementation of the personalized medicine strategies. Thank you to the committee for having selected us to present our research project. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much. I would love to hear, Maya, do you have a question for Nerea?
Yeah, thank you for this interesting proposal again. So you mentioned that collaboration with international organizations is very important. Can you elaborate on the advantages of this collaborative approach? What are the advantages?
For instance, an example you mean? Yes, for example, with Canada's center, they have developed their algorithm, so what we are is validating and coming back here to be implemented in the national hospitals, okay, to do the better diagnosis of all these cancers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, then we move to the University of Ghent. Giacomo, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you to the committee to select our project, which is the project 𝗫𝗁. At Ghent University, I'm the postdoctoral coordinator of the project, so I represent here also the PI, which is Professor 𝗕𝗏𝗏, which gave me the impossible task of presenting 11 slides in 3 minutes, which I'm trying to do. So what's the 𝗫𝗁 project? It's, we monitored the trajectories of unaccompanied minors in Europe as well as south of it, and evaluated the psychosocial impacts and mental health impact of those trajectories. So we worked in these 4 countries, and over a period of time of 3 years when we followed the minors, so in Libya, in Italy, in Greece, in Belgium, in different environment. And as you can see here, so detention centers, informal camps, and importantly, again, we followed them over a period of time, so also across and away from the original countries. So the project has been strongly shaped by the involvement with stakeholders, which we did at the start of the project with several workshops with a social worker, for example, but then we follow up in the final phase by engaging with policymakers in all the countries where we worked, and also at the EU level, but also, for example, with event in Nigeria, which was one of the group of participants which we addressed. But also, beside this workshop, we had other ways to address and to produce impact in society. So, of course, the website with the lectures, which are online, of course. Then we produced podcasts when we tell about our experiences of research, and we tell about our findings. We produced, and it is here, a report which we presented 2 days ago at the EU level, which also includes the use of sketches, for example, to represent the stories and the data, and to also, again, reach out to a wider public. But also, of course, we engage with the media, a lot of visibility in national and international radio, TV, and newspapers. And so I think I succeeded with the task. This is the last slide, so we think we had quite of an impact. So thank you very much.
Well, I'll have to recalculate, but I think that was about, on average, 13 seconds per slide. So that is, to start with, very impressive, yes. I don't know, Tamsin, if you wanted to ask a question about that, or maybe the content. I'm just overwhelmed with the speed of this.
Yeah, impressive run through the slides. Thank you very much. And thank you for presenting a project which is so valuable and is working with such a vulnerable group. So thank you very much to the group for that. I wondered if, in terms of your policy engagement, if you could talk a bit more about your strategy for that, and what you see your next steps, whether that's further internationalization, like in Nigeria, or what your next steps would be.
As said, we engage with policy making at the national, but also at the EU level. Probably the EU level is where we did most of the latest effort and where we developed a more refined strategy. So we had first a round of informal chats with high-ranked policymakers, for example, also the director of DG Home, so the Interior Affairs Ministry, if you want, of the EU Commission. So through this interaction, we refined our tools of dissemination, and the kind of, for example, the idea of sketches and narratives came as a demand from the policymaking to get a more effective tools for them to bring the message. So we had this kind of interaction, and we developed also a series of policy recommendations that is what we are pushing forward with these reports.
Brilliant, thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now we're moving on to the flagship of the digital flagship, right, Hedrik? So that's you.
Right.
So I'm gonna give Hedrik the floor from the University of Groningen.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Hedrik van Rijn. I'm a full professor of cognitive science and neuroscience at the University of Groningen, and I'm here to tell about 𝗕𝗵𝗲. 𝗕𝗵𝗲 is a Dutch play on words. It means something like clever cramming. It's a digital tool to optimize the learning of facts. I don't think that facts are that important per se, but facts are the cornerstone, the building stones of any deeper kind of knowledge. And what we've done is that we've taken computational cognitive models of the human brain, of the human memory system, and used them to optimize learning. How do we do that? Well, we don't just look at whether an answer is correct or incorrect, but we also assess the certainty by which a learner gives the answer. If I say Bilbao as answer to a question, you know for sure that I know the answer. But if I say Bilbao, it's probably that I still need to practice that a bit. And that is what we use in our system. Now, this very simple trick gives an improved course grade, an improved grade of 10 to 20%. And that's immense. And the great thing about it is that in collaborations with publishing houses in the Netherlands, in Switzerland, in Belgium, in Portugal, in Sweden, in the US, now over 1 million students have access to this tool that allows them to learn faster and more efficiently. Now, I'm standing here to present to you, but this is truly team science. In 2008, the idea was sort of like conceived by a master's student. And over all these years, many students have participated in this. In fact, next week, one of my PhD students will be defending his thesis on trying to take this project a step further. And right now, we have collaborations with medical centers. Because if we build a model of the human brain, of the human memory system, and if we have a parameter that indicates how well the memory works, wouldn't we be able to then also tell whether the memory is declining? And that actually is the newest step towards impact. We're using this system to predict how much memory is declining in clinical subgroups in pre-Alzheimer patients. And this will be the next step of impact. But impact is to the core of this project because we take academic knowledge, we bring it to society, and those students that are participating, that are learning, are actually giving us data. So it's not just academia that's impacting society, but society itself is also impacting academia by giving us new data to refine our models. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Hedrik. Thank you very much. Inigo, would you like to ask a question?
Thank you so much. Could you tell us how did you choose which stakeholders to engage with in order to deliver impact? And reflecting on your work to date, which additional stakeholders are you going to engage with in the future to further enhance the impact of the project?
So we're engaging with those stakeholders that can give us the widest reach. The story that I didn't tell is that I want this to be able to be available to every child in the world. And me as an academic by myself or with my group, I can never reach out to other groups. So I try to get in contact with the biggest publishing houses in countries so that as many students will have access to the tool. And that's also why we collaborate with publishing houses and, for example, not with business-to-consumer organizations, because then it depends on the wealth of the parents whether they can afford this. Big publishing houses, often government funded because of the educational materials, give the biggest possible reach. And that's why we try to work together with those. But we always make sure that it isn't an exclusive license, so that we can also work together with schools, with refugee centers, with other places where we can make an additional impact.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Roderick.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're almost halfway, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to see more of them. And we're going to now hear from Ingelies, right? From the University of Tartu. I'll give you the floor.
Hi, my name is Ingelies Simpson. I'm on behalf of the Disaster and Resilience Research Team in the University of Tartu. And we're a very diverse team. We're gathering knowledge from different fields of sociology, crisis management, communication studies, and so forth. And I'm here on behalf of our amazing 𝗕𝗿𝗰𝗵, who's the Associate Professor of Sociology of Sustainability, as well as Sten Hansson, who's the Associate Professor of Communications, and our Sociology PhD student, Kristinero. So what we wanted to do was to create a digital tool to assess vulnerability in crisis situations. So not so much just to focus on the continuity of institutions and infrastructure, but to bring a human face to crises, to focus on the most vulnerable people in the society and their needs. So we have created a tool. The first phase, we created a digital tool in cooperation with crisis managers to identify the people who are vulnerable during crisis situations and what kind of help they actually need and how fast they need it in crisis situations. And now the upcoming phase, this is where the digital part comes in. We will employ AI and machine learning techniques to gather information from national databases and then model and assess the vulnerability in the crisis situations. So all in all, we hope that our project might actually have a very practical impact and actually save lives of many people in Estonia, but maybe also like around the world. And as a result of our cooperation with multiple stakeholders, our ideas are actually right now considered in the National Act of Crisis Preparedness, and our tool is meant to be usable for different crisis management agencies such as the National Health Board, the Rescue Board, Police and Border Guard, and so forth. And we have also gained some momentum in different academic and peer-reviewed journals. We just hope that we could encourage the broader discussion and academic debate on crisis preparedness and novel solutions to emergencies and hazards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ingelies. Wait, it's on right now? Yeah, okay. I feel a little bit like I'm in Zoom or Teams still with the muting and the unmuting. It's going to go wrong at some point. Thank you so much for this presentation. Tamsin, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. And I wanted to ask about your planning phase for societal impact. Did you use any tools such as a theory of change or logic model that we learned about yesterday? Or was it more organic, the way you developed your pathway?
I think it has been more organic.
Ingelies, can you use the mic?
Yes.
Sorry
again. So I think it has been more organic, but I think a lot of the societal change and the impact comes from the fact that we work together with so many governmental agencies and the Rescue Board, and as well as companies offering essential services, so that we know their practical experiences and we gather the input from them about the needs of the vulnerable people and the needs of the agencies in helping those vulnerable people. So, I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ingelies. Thank you very much. We are continuing, going to the University of Bordeaux, and we have Laura here to tell about their project.
Okay. Hi everyone. Today, education challenge remain high in sub-Saharan African countries. and those in school have relatively low learning outcomes, and this situation is further stressed by high demographic growth. Addressing this challenge requires resource management and research preceded by up-to-date quality and available data, with a large temporal coverage in order to evaluate and monitoring these educational outcomes and policy at the long run. We believe that leveraging existing administrative data is one way to address the challenge, and particularly in Côte d'Ivoire. The state of the Ivorian education sector is representative of the situation. The data are annual and exhaustive on all students, teachers, and schools, but are independent because are collected by separate sub-administration. The use of the data is limited to short-term piloting of this resource, with large aggregated data, for example, at the regional level. In other words, there are more than 200 rich microdatabases under use without time series and without data fusion. Your objective is to support the Ivorian Ministry of Education, the MENA, for a better use of existing data, management of education policies, and also understanding of educational outcomes through time and space, in a way that can inspire neighboring countries. This project is the result of a partnership approach between first the Ministry of Education, which collects raw data and ultimately benefits from this project, and SIA, which cleans and merges the MENA data, and BSE, which provides technical support to both MENA and SIA, with a financial support to French Agency of Development. Thanks to this collaboration, we work on impact evaluation of some public policy, like short-term and long-term effects of policy of secondary school construction, access to private education, and also mother tongue education project. Final database allows the monitoring on all students, all child, all schools over time. For example, here we can say this child was enrolled in these schools and he had such test score, maybe is due to such schools or teachers' characteristics. We can also provide a bug in slide. We can also provide spatial monitoring, for example, by mapping the school performance completed with secondary data. For example, to know who are the beneficiaries from a project and how their situation has evolved. Thanks to this project, MENA can better get its decision, local research are better trained to evaluate the impact of public policies, and we can contribute to important social issues for the well-being of population in sub-Saharan African countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, don't go yet. You've got a very excited colleague already ready for the next. No, we're going to first ask Maya if she wants to ask a question.
Yes, I'm very excited because I'm an education data manager myself, so I know how important data are. But then I was thinking about, okay, you have the data, it's a wonderful project, but do you have plans, future plans to even enhance the impact of this project, this beautiful project, and how? What are the pathways? And do you want to engage other stakeholders, perhaps?
Okay. Us, we would like to do impact evaluation of public policies, and I think it's very difficult to evaluate the impact of a big project like that on, but we know just there are a contribution in the practice from ministry. For example, today they develop, because of this project, they develop an information system of education to collect and fusion future data automatically, and us, we would like to harmonization of young projects on the structure of this information system.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next research project, also from the University of Bordeaux. Now, it's also a surprise to me because I have two names on my list, and there's one person. So I either have Stefan or Inigo.
Yes, and I only have one name, so I'm Stefan.
I'm Stefan. Okay, so we'll do it Stefan and no Inigo today. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so doing research and innovation or supporting people who do it makes you sometimes struggle with the decision-making process. As read and analyze research and innovation, ecosystems feels difficult because it implies a lot of different players of size and of different types with different goals and coming from different countries. Also, their interactions are complex, and because science and technology are also not easy to understand because there's a rise of cross-field topics. Also, even if we have access to more and more data about research and innovation, it doesn't mean that we have access to precise answers to our questions. And that's very confusing. But the need to understand remains, and especially as driving research and innovation to solve challenges feels more important than ever in our society. This is why the 𝗕𝗖𝗄 platform has been created 10 years ago. We are a research platform in the University of Bordeaux that aim to develop and transfer the use of dedicated toolbox to the decision maker in order to help them in their decision-making process. We call that toolbox technology intelligence. So let's split technology intelligence as a 5-step process. A large part of our work is to optimize and develop each one of those steps so the global decision-making process is more efficient, more precise, allows 360 vision, and finally, hopefully, might produce better results. First step, we work to understand and translate the decision-making process with the decision makers, so we can identify a proper approach to help him. Then we work on expertise and collect the relevant data. Then we work the processing and usability of those data. And of course, we work the translation of those data into metrics. And finally, we support the use and diffusion of results within organizations so it can unlock 2 new benefits. First one is it gathered because technology intelligence helps explain your choices. And second one is that it helps develop strategic capacities at every level of the organization because it helps things differently. So how 𝗕𝗖𝗄 do all of that? Well, we have 3 main channels. We directly collaborate with decision makers to develop new approach and tool dedicated to technology intelligence. We train also the decision makers to understand, use, and implement technology intelligence approach into their organization. And we also do direct deployment of technology intelligence work to the decision makers because when you demonstrate benefits, it's way easier to engage them to learn it after. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan, very much. It's clear that you're from the University of Bordeaux really practiced the exact 3-minute limit. That's fantastic. Well, Stefan, since you didn't bring your colleague Inigo, I'm going to ask my colleague Inigo here to ask the question.
Exactly.
Is that okay?
Thank you so much. In your opinion, can the process of developing and sharing technology intelligence with research and innovation collaborators both inform research and create external impact?
I guess, if I'm correctly understanding the question, and regarding the discussion we had yesterday, I think technology intelligence is maybe mostly about helping creating outcomes just before the impact. So we help researchers, we help society to better think, make better decisions. But we do not have the chance to evaluate if those decisions actually help society. So for the moment, we most of the time focus on these steps, but we also know that technology intelligence approach, like analysis of citation, of reputation, might also help us to have a better understanding of impact of our works.
Great. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you very much. All right, the next research project we're going to hear about is from the University of Galway, and that's Aaron. I believe I have the pleasure. Yes, great. And we're moving, by the way, to the flagship. I mentioned to Phil that, but we're now at climate change, I believe.
Deep breath. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Golden, as introduced from the University of Galway. And I'd like to talk to you today about our project called 𝗕𝗵𝗄, which is an appropriately wonderful name, which is a nice acronym for a very big title, Tracking Adaptation Progress in Agriculture and Food Security using an AI-powered satellite remote sensing platform. So what I want to try and do is I want to try to open it up and give you guys a bit of context about how we're trying to do it and how it's relevant to why we're all here today. On the right-hand side there, you see a marvelous picture of the continent of Africa. That's a year in its life. The images have been taken by thousands of Earth observation satellites over a year through the green filter. So we're seeing the biomass here. And you see this beautiful beating heart, as I like to think of it. And you also see the seasons, okay? And up in the top right-hand corner there, you can probably see something double beating, and that's the Nile Valley, which is an anomaly. You wouldn't expect it. And the reason why it's an anomaly is because there's people there farming. The really interesting area that we're in is looking at is the area called the Sahel, which is just where the Sahara bounds the sort of the lower part of this beating heart. There are about 100 million people there who are dependent on subsistent agriculture. And trying to figure out ways of understanding what's going on there is critically important to the work that we're trying to do. And how we're doing that is we're using AI models to measure those heartbeats for all of those individual farms and use them as the same way cardiologists would use the same kind of heartbeat patterns to figure out whether there are problems in someone's heart, to identify where those individual problems are, identify areas that need intervention, identify areas that are stable, and to use that to figure out what's going on. It's a very complicated problem involving a lot of moving parts, specifically lots of expertise. On the left-hand side there, you see I have all of the different types of people who are involved. Covers a range of disciplines and both mid and early career individuals. We have a mix of enthusiasm and wisdom. We also have an incredibly powerful stakeholder team in the form of Self-Help Africa. They're one step away from people on the ground in places like Senegal and in Mali who are actually living this nightmare of climate change. And so by talking to them, it ensures that it gives us a total focus on us being able to deliver the kind of impact pathway that we know is going to have an impact on their lives. And so that's pretty much how our project is encapsulated. One final thing I'd like to say about this particular impact adventure that we're working on, it's terribly important for it to be fun. And one of the great things about the job that I have, leading this team, is that every day in the office, if you like, is completely revitalizing. Not only because I'm working with such an interesting bunch of people at all kinds of stages, but also because at the end of the day, we know what we're delivering is going to have a direct relevance on people's lives. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aaron. I mean, I'm used to making puns, but the 𝗕𝗵𝗄 is so great. I'm not going to top that. So
thank you.
I'll just, quickly go to Tamsin. Hopefully she has a question of some sort.
I do. I also have a compliment on your use of acronyms, so thank you very much for that, and not to take away from the really significant work that you've done as well, so thank you for presenting this. I wanted to ask how you went about choosing your stakeholders initially, so what drew you to Self-Help Africa, and reflecting on those decisions, how might you engage further stakeholders to progress the project?
Okay, that's a great question, and it's highly relevant because we're funded by Science Foundation Ireland, which is like the national funding agency, and this is very much built around their Challenge Programme initiative, and part and the parcel of that, at the very start of it, we were given a certain amount of seed money to try and basically go out and test drive our ideas with different groups and bring that back to Science Foundation Ireland in order to justify follow-on funding. That led to me being in a room, the Azerbaijan room in the Food Agricultural Organization in Rome, through friends of, I suppose, for want of a word, the Irish mafia, not the real mafia, I hasten to add, but just a network of Irish people. And we presented, we didn't know who was going to turn up. Friends of ours had sent an email around to say, this team's coming from Ireland to talk about this type of project. If you're interested, turn up. We maybe expected 10 or 12 people. We had about 60 people in the room, covering all of the sort of domains that you see there, okay? economists, sociologists, socioeconomic experts, food agricultural experts, and to some extent what appealed to them about our project was the fact that rather than trying to do a lot of figuring out on the ground using survey teams and all the rest of it, that we were going to use this kind of honest broker system to literally measure biomass change from orbit and use that as a kind of a reference frame to link everything together. And it was as a consequence of that that we got our funding, and also as a consequence of that, we got follow-on calls, okay? Specifically through the Department of Foreign Affairs in Ireland, who co-sponsored this challenge. They said, you need to talk to X, you need to talk to Y. So we actually had a range of potential stakeholders in mind, but we wanted to focus on these guys, mainly because they're small, they're nimble, and as I said to you in the talk there, they're literally one step away from the kind of people we want to help. So.
Thanks. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for that answer. Wonderful. So before we go on to more tapas, couldn't help it, sorry. We're going to get another pitch from the University of Bratislava, again, Comenius. University of Bratislava, Alexander is here, I believe. And we're moving on to the energy flagship. Very exciting.
Thank you. So simplify, we will talk about how to get more croissants, so there is no need on presentation. Yeah, and I hope that everyone today had a nice breakfast, not like me, and I assume your breakfast was included bread, which is made of wheat, yeah, simply. And as all living species, wheat has its own diseases. And our small scientific team, which includes two recognized, one established and one leading researcher, decided to focus on one of them, which is called 𝗕𝗿𝗰𝗵. So our desired impact is to make a genetic marker system, which will help us and everyone who wants to identify resistant, non-resistant, and heterozygous plants. Because this is quite important for breeding, and of course it will help to understand how genetics of wheat and other plants will work for different species. Regarding industry, it could be might useful to identify these plants because it helps simply to shorten the time of breeding and of course to economy a lot of money which companies are consuming to do this breeding stuff. And you know, the most linked person from our team with industry is Associated Professor Miroslav Švec, which has links to local and European Union companies and industries and some private sectors and farmers. And regarding to me, I'm trying to participate on different events. I don't know, starting from European Researchers' Night and to development strategy of Danube region. For example, I also made some lecture for business school students in IMC Krems in Austria, so I can say we are quite acting proactive. Yeah, before they will go to industry, they will know us, I hope at least. And here I can say that we want to anyway to promote our research activities, and this place as ENLIGHT Impact Conference is quite nice because I hope someone will be also here interested how to get more croissants. Thank you.
Thank you. I turned it off. Yes, I turned it off. See. There was my Zoom moment. Alexander, thank you very much. Inigo, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you so much. You talk about the farm to fork strategy, which is at the heart of the European Green Deal. Could you tell us how might your research respond to that strategy, or perhaps engage with stakeholders with an interest in making food system fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly?
If we are talking about environment, you know, we are trying to improve our fields by integrating some resistant genes. So this integration will allow to lower use of pesticides. So That's simplify. And of course, for such companies that sells afterwards some plants to biofuel, if you have more greener plants, you can use for more to biofuel. But it's just my wish for them. That's it.
All right, fantastic. Great, thank you, Alexander. All right, we go on to our one and only duo presentation, I believe. So from the University of the Basque Country, moving to the flagship of equity, we have Antonio and Elisabeth. The floor is yours.
Egunon, good morning. Governance affects everything we do as citizens and scientists.
If we want governance to be collaborative, cities and towns need to imagine the futures they want to create with their public policies, the citizens, and the universities.
And our work in CR is about that, collective imagination, how to create the shared visions that we hold as a society.
How? We do it by a participatory action research process over a year, and we are now in month 3, so this is a work in progress.
And this is our team. The core team is 6 people, different stages of our careers, but we have something like a little ecosystem made up of 8 different teams with up to 25 researchers.
The team is very diverse, mixing arts and humanities with social, health, and life sciences.
And right now we're working with 140 people in 5 key areas.
People, migrations and diversity,
Science, technology, and innovation,
climate crisis and land use,
energy, business, and economy.
well-being, health, and care.
So we spent half a year in creating the platform, preparing the space, and now this whole year we are working in the workshops.
We create knowledge with stakeholders online and offline in those workshops. At each workshop, researchers present perspective and current information to craft questions, answers, and policy proposals as well.
And from those experiences, we gather the data, and that data is used to create questions, answers, and proposals.
Our inspiration is the new deliberative programs all over the world, such as the Conference on the Future of Europe.
Yeah, and this has become our inspiration to create an extended citizen assembly model, which is going to be used all over Gipuzkoa. This is the platform, and the idea is to, all this year long, to create and use and perform this citizen assembly open to 800,000 people.
In order to ensure that this process is transparent, collaborative, and well-regulated, at CEAR, we have designed a digital platform with built-in democratic guarantees based on the CIDIM, a free and open source software developed in Barcelona.
And the platform holds it all together. It's a hub for both scientists and citizens to work and interact with each other.
And the connection to ENLIGHT.
Well, climate assemblies are over the place, and we have fresh data indicating that they might increase trust in political system and social cohesion.
Because precisely social and economic inequality is rising, and trust in political systems is decreasing in Europe.
So to sum up, our impact is on the way citizens see themselves, on their vision of themselves, on their vision of the challenges we all face all over Europe, and on what we can do about it. So the impact on public policy.
Let us make ENLIGHT an example of collaborative governance. Let us become agents of change and help each other co-create knowledge with and for our communities.
Thank you very much. Wow. Antonio, you can stay. You can stay. You have a little bit more time because Maya, you definitely have a question.
Yes.
So I want to see if it's also very much dispersed, like talking 50-50,
Yeah.
answering the question. That'd be great.
That's a challenge for
Yeah.
you. Okay, so I have a question. So it's a wonderful project again, but you proposed, or you were thinking about going beyond the current scope of the 5 key areas, which are situated, let's say, in the Basque Country. But I was wondering, how do you want to do that? What are the pathways? And how will you take the other national, international contexts into account? Different legislation, different demographic characteristics, perhaps? So can you Tell me more.
The short answer is that the problems are the same for everyone. I mean, polarization, climate change, but it's a very bottom-up project. So our focus is on this region, but in every workshop we bring experts and knowledge. Again, it's international. So, but we plan to, but we work. It's a very granular project. Okay. So our stakeholders are local towns, small villages, and our students, of course.
Yeah, I completely agree with the answer. I would just add that this is a work in progress, and I would reinforce that idea that it is innovative and we are learning on the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much to both of you, very much. All right, from the University of Bratislava, we now have Katarina speak about her project. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here to talk about the research that we did at Comenius University in Bratislava and the activities that we did to engage stakeholders to achieve change in emergency legislation. I'm Katarina Starnova from Comenius University, and I'm leading the team of 6 people of various backgrounds, ranging from political science to law, PhD students to senior researchers. I myself also used to work in a think tank. So our research looked at the emergency legislation, which during the pandemics enabled the parliament and the government to pass legislation even within 3 days. But that meant also that stakeholders were omitted, and the evidence and the insight from the stakeholders was not taken into consideration. Which is legitimate during the pandemic, during the emergency, and in our research we showed that this practice is being used also for non-COVID related issues and also after the crisis was over. So what we really tried to do is to show that this jeopardizes the equal access to lawmaking for the public and for the users, and it jeopardizes the democracy itself. So we put for ourselves 2 aims. One was to raise awareness about this malpractice and ultimately to change also the practice so that the lawmaking will become more inclusive. So what we did was to first of all map the stakeholders and we categorized them in certain groups based on their roles, strengths, and we set communication tools tailored to these stakeholders, and you see them in this yellow panel. And the tools that we used are in the blue panel. So, for example, the users of the platform were integrated very early on and were involved also in the design, and we wanted also their experience. Then we organized the workshops for the oversight bodies, which are in the gray area, and involved them in the drafting of the recommendations. And also we regularly posted blogs and podcasts that were through media to the public. Through that we achieved also secondary effects, that the stakeholders themselves started to create their own activities, and our biggest success was that the Constitutional Court decided that emergency legislation used like this is not legitimate. We have not yet changed the practice, but I think we are on the way to do that as the awareness is raised and the media started to talk about that as well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Katarina. From the Comenius University. I apologize, you're absolutely right. All right, so Tamsin, do you have a question?
I do, thank you for bringing this very topical presentation to us today. I wondered if you could describe your process for selecting and engaging with those active users and civil society representatives, and any challenges you faced in gaining that really vital perspective on your work and the challenge.
First of all, it was
Katarina, can you speak in the microphone? Thank you.
It was challenging to reach the powerful stakeholders, which are on the right side, like National Audit Office or the Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Finance. But since we cooperate with them also in the past in different projects, we have already certain partnerships established. So through those partnerships, it was I don't say easy, but it was possible to reach out to the relevant people and talk to them, explain the problem, and then get them on the board, which was the most important thing.
Thank you. Thank you, Katarina, so much. All right. I'm sad to say we're already at the last pitch, but last but not least, so I'll give the floor to Sarah Ann from the University of Galway.
Thank you. Over the past 3 decades, globally, many countries have been addressing historic cases of child abuse and gender-based violence in institutions. Different countries have taken different approaches to justice and accountability. Since 2014, the mother and baby institutions in Ireland have become a topic of national and international discourse after it was found that there were 798 infants buried in a septic tank in 𝗕𝗵𝗲, which is in Galway. Over 200,000 women and children were placed in institutions in Ireland in the 20th century. And at one point, 1% of the Irish population was institutionalised in some form. In 2015, the state set up the Mother and Baby Homes Commission of Inquiry to respond to this. Widely criticised by those directly affected, by academics, by advocates, the final report was published in 2020. So where is our project in this? In February 2019, a one-day event was held in the University of Galway where we invited survivors, advocates, and those directly affected to talk about their experiences. It was decided that an oral history archive would be created, and it would remain a living archive, a living document. The 𝗕𝗵𝗲 Oral History Project was born. The project is grassroots, it's interdisciplinary, it's grounded in the principles of transitional and historical justice. It is the ethical digitization of life stories, and it acknowledges that there is intergenerational trauma in Ireland as well as in other countries. It has been impactful in many ways already. To date, there have been over 100 articles nationally and internationally on the project, one by the journalist Cara Fox, who spent 2 days with us from CNN in 𝗕𝗵𝗲 and had over 7 million readers. The actor Cillian Murphy narrated our podcast, Other, and this has been downloaded over 20,000 times. Nothing about us without us is the theme and the approach of the project, and it has been core to all of our work. Equity, accountability are constant concerns for us to ensure that trauma-informed research is always being engaged with. The project has merged research and advocacy. It has demonstrated that impactful research can be ethical, it can be local, this is a local project, and it can have a global reach as a result. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and that was absolutely great. Maria.
Yes, thank you. I was so here. I've read the proposal, and you didn't mention it today, but I think that it should be mentioned. You received only limited funding. Yeah, I think you mentioned the amount of 57,000 euros only. Yeah. So my question, it's maybe a little bit bold, but it's the last one, so I can. What would you have done with a multiple of that amount, and how could it have deepened and broadened the impact?
So the 57,000 was initially the first year, which is what we were funded for. Okay. We couldn't go to a state organisation. We could not be funded by the status quo. This had to be, so it was Galway University Foundation that funded us. Mm-hmm. The next piece that we would have done, had we gotten the other 300,000, is that we would have developed more of the creative arts. Mm-hmm. We would have had more exhibitions. Yes. But what we did And I'm not saying that we should do this as researchers. We cut our cloth to measure. So we have here, you can see the COT, there are drama students. They did a performance, and it was during COVID, so they had to do it outside, masked up. And 𝗕𝗵𝗃, who's a really great Irish musician, he put a piece to that. And we did a digital exhibition, and we have photographs of all our survivors, the first 10 that came to us. We brought a photographer in. We actually did makeup, we did things that make you feel, you know, I could do it some today myself, but you feel kind of good about having a photographer there. And we have these, you know, individuals that it's their whole life. So what would we do? More of that.
Yes.
But actually, I'm really proud of what we've done with the limited we
And
had.
you should. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Impressive. All right. So after these 15 pitches, honestly, I'm so overwhelmed and wowed. I did read a few of them, and together with the whole panel, we read all of them. But it's just amazing. And I really want to say, you know, your work is appreciated. You are very much appreciated, no matter, because there was so much diversity, no matter the scope or the phase or the funding that you managed to work with, the resources. It's just so encouraging in everything that you've done. But I'm just speaking on, I think, behalf of everyone here, but I didn't ask their permission, so it might just be my words. But I very much appreciate and think it's fantastic what you've all done. And I hope everyone else enjoyed this too. It's these kind of stories, success stories, different, very diverse pathways to impact or planned pathways that hopefully help us get inspired. We do have a few minutes before, you know, everyone starts voting for the best pitch. Again, you won't see the result until the end of the day. But I don't know if there are any direct questions from the audience, not necessarily about the, because the nominees, they had their limited time. I'm sorry to say, you can talk to them more in the breaks. But perhaps to the panel as well, because I was just wondering, you know, reading all these projects, if there were any just general thoughts as well, like what was noticeable, how did you experience this process of reading these? That would be my question, unless somebody else has something very important, way better question. Annika, that's not a good question. I've got a better one. Nobody? Okay. All right, then we'll do my question. So maybe we can just have everyone quickly respond to, you know, initial feelings, thoughts. How did you experience this whole selection process and reading all these cases?
Yeah, can I start? Yeah. Well, for me, it was a bit challenging because I thought at the beginning that it would be very difficult to compare. I mean, to read all the diverse proposals and to compare them, because we should, yeah, assess them and compare them. But in the end, I turned up in a team with Annika, which was great because she's so experienced. And we didn't talk too much about it beforehand, and we came up with the same, let's say, solutions. So we agreed very, very soon, and we saw that it was within that diversity. There were a lot of patterns coming back, and yeah, of course, the enthusiasm of all the teams and the way that you engage your stakeholders. It was very diverse, but it was, yeah, you followed the same, let's say, ethical rules and thoughts when you were considering your project. So yeah, for me, it was a great experience.
Great, thank you. Townsend.
Echo everything that Maya and Annika have said. But for me personally, it was really satisfying and enlightening to see, no matter whether it was a local or a national or an international challenge that was being addressed, the real significance and the intelligent and empathetic way that some really challenging subject matter and content was dealt with, and how the pathways to impact ensured that those stakeholders are there throughout those journeys. And there were some really different ways of engaging them, and it was great to see that variety. But again, the common theme of of getting to an end goal, an outcome which really answered that initial question, no matter where in the world that was placed.
Absolutely, agreed. Iñigo.
Well, for me, I think that it's a good opportunity to considering the impact in these projects. You can look how they want to achieve more impact because they are considering at the first time. No? So I think that this perspective is nuclear to all the projects. So I'm very happy to read it.
Yeah, and I think I agree, and I think the four of us, what we experienced, I think the whole selection committee, which was, I think about 14 people, something like that? 12, okay. I think we very much shared that, and I'd love to, just hinting this way, love to do something like this again, because it's just very inspiring. Really it is, it really is. I hope you all get to hear more about these cases. Really fantastic. Now I'm gonna look a little bit to my side, because actually I don't know technically what's gonna happen. I think there's gonna be some sort of link that you can use. I hope you all wrote down, you know, everything about all these pitches that inspired you, who you want to talk to, but unfortunately I think you can only vote for one pitch, right? Yes. So the best pitch of today. What was valued by you the most? What inspired you the most? And again, the nominees are allowed to vote as well. I just heard that.
We're not, huh? We're not. We don't have our mobile phones, huh?
No, we're not. No, I don't know if the rest of the selection committee is voting, but here on stage we're refraining from voting. If somebody's not managing with logging in, maybe raise the hand so we can help out. And with we, I mean my colleagues here at the university. So I have a feeling people are managing. I think most are good, yes. All right, then I don't know if there's, while the last people are still putting in their vote, if there's anything I need to actually still mention, any logistics. I think by now we know where the coffee and tea and tapas and my favorite, the tortillas are. Leave some for me. It was an absolute pleasure being part of this panel. Thank you, panelists, for being here, for your comments, your questions. And of course, thank you to all the nominees for your wonderful work and the courage to stand here and come and bring that wonderful 3-minute pitch. I didn't have to tackle anyone, so I'm proud of you all. Enjoy a break, everyone.